Prime Minister Abdelaziz Jarrad chaired on Sunday an interministerial meeting devoted to assess the epidemiological situation in addition to the measures due to be taken to acquire the anti-COVID vaccine. The meeting was attended by the Interior, the Transport, the Health and the Pharmaceutical Industry Ministers, as well as the head of the National Sanitary Security Agency. Prime Minister Jarrad reaffirmed President Abdelmajid Tebboun's commitment to acquire the coronavirus vaccine as soon as possible. However, he indicated that the choice depends mainly on the decision due to be taken by the health authority, adding that the public authorities will mobilize all the financial and material means to acquire the vaccine. To this effect, Abdelaziz Jarrad decided to set up two task forces, chaired respectively by the Health and the Interior Ministers, to speed up the acquisition measures to transport, store and distribute the vaccine.
Following the false allegations contained by the European Parliament resolution concerning the human rights in Algeria, the Arab Parliament condemned this move following its meeting held at the Arab League premises in Cairo and termed the EU resolution as a blatant interference in Algeria's domestic affairs. It also called on the European Parliament to review its position to be at the level of the diplomatic ties existing between the two sides.
The two members of the African Parliament hailing from the Council of the Nation or the Senate, namely Abdelkader Belkhalwa and Bouhafs Habad, also condemned the resolution taken by the European Parliament, describing it as a tool meant to sow discord among the African countries in particular. The reactions about the European Parliament resolution continue to arouse condemnation in Algeria. To this effect, a parliamentary group at the level of the National People's Assembly, or Lower House of Parliament, strongly condemned the content of this resolution, considering it as blatant interference in the domestic affairs of Algeria. At the level of the Upper House of Parliament, members belonging to the National Popular Rally, RND, denounced the European Parliament resolution, qualifying it as a serious attack on the integrity and stability of our country.
The Finance Minister, Ayman Ben Abdurrahman, inaugurated on Sunday a counter within the People's Credit of Algeria Bank, the CPA, in its El Khattabi agency to fund small and medium-sized enterprises as well as startups. This is an initiative that will help increase funding capacities of the national economy and modernize its funding methods. Sahel Nashati, literally meaning my easy business, or Sahel Mahel, easy peasy, are the two new bank offers that have come to facilitate access to funding that most new businesses struggle to find. A business approach named PME by CPA, which is intended by the public bank to enrich its offers by adopting a development and support-oriented strategy to benefit companies regardless of their size. The minister had this to say: "It is a financial and technical support as well as counseling in the form of a business strategy that will meet all expectations expressed by small and medium-sized enterprises and startups." It is interesting to know that the funding threshold under these three bank services to customers, as indicated by the CEO of the People's Credit of Algeria Bank, could reach 300,000 Algerian dinars for startups and 2 million Algerian dinars for small-sized companies, while the threshold for middle-sized companies would reach 150 million dinars.
The startups are considered as a cornerstone of development, a new segment in which young people want to invest. This is thanks to the efforts of young project leaders who are willing to participate in the building of a new Algeria, an Algeria in line with the aspirations of its citizens. The innovative company is a new concept in Algeria. Economists have long called to integrate this mode of entrepreneurship in our growth model. Let no one tell you otherwise. Our country is full of new and innovative ideas which will be necessary to invest in and participate in the growth of the country. The government strategy is to grant facilities to startups, measures and advantages decided by the President of the Republic to encourage and support innovative project leaders. The government's approach is to create a new economy, an economy that relies on startups in addition to small and medium-sized enterprises, all driven by the knowledge and innovation economy.
1,009 new confirmed cases of coronavirus and 17 deaths were announced on November 29th by the spokesman of the scientific committee in charge of monitoring the evolution of the pandemic, Professor Jamal Fourar. In terms of treatment, the total number of cured patients over the past 24 hours continues rising to reach 53,204. 636 patients recovered, while 44 are still in intensive care in the past 24 hours. Mr. Fourar said there were no reports of new cases in 13 provinces. He added that 13 provinces recorded between 1 and 9 cases, and 22 provinces registered more than 10 cases. Professor Fourar recalled the need to observe healthy measures, notably wearing of face masks and respecting social distancing. The minister in charge of prospecting, Mohammed Sharif Belmihoub, along with Prime Minister Abdulaziz Jarrad, said that a survey aimed at assessing the effects of the COVID-19 health crisis on business and householders will be launched at the end of December, and its first results will be noticeable by January. 15,000 families and 15,000 companies will participate in the investigation on the impact of the health crisis on Algerian families and companies. And the current health crisis was the reason of a worse economic crisis on the global economy. At the end of the meeting, chaired by the Prime Minister with the social partners and the economic operators, an initial impact assessment was made to come up with 115 recommendations, regardless of the impact of the crisis, that will be mitigated. The goal is to revive the economic machine. According to Mohammed Sharif Belmihoub, 2021 should be the year of deep reforms in the economic and social sectors. In his response to the developments of crude oil prices, the minister pointed out the difficulty of predicting accurate price fluctuations depends on the development of health crises. Regarding future subsidy reform, Mohammed Sharif estimated that the health crisis, during which many citizens have not received income for more than 6 months, constituted an obstacle for engaging reform discussions. The poll will be conducted jointly with the United Nations Development Programme, while the results are expected by January.
Once again, units of the Sahrawi People's Liberation Army have targeted bases and positions of the Moroccan Occupation Army. According to the Sahrawi Defense Ministry, Sahrawi forces have carried out violent attacks against Moroccan military positions behind the buffer zone in response to the Moroccan exactions against Sahrawi defenseless civilians. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered today on the Place de la République in Paris to denounce the Moroccan aggression against the Sahrawi people and called on the UN to force Morocco to comply with international law. For their part, the Australian Socialist Alliance strongly condemned the Moroccan aggression and the violation of human rights in the occupied territories of Western Sahara. South African human rights defenders also denounced the Moroccan military aggression against the Sahrawi civilians and called on the UN to set a date for the holding of the self-determination referendum. In a communiqué, the Union of Democratic Youth of India strongly condemned this aggression against Sahrawi civilians and called on the UN to accomplish its true mission in order to enable the Sahrawi people to exercise their right of self-determination.
Massive protests held on Saturday in France against a controversial draft bill related to national security and police brutality caused dozens of people, including police officers and gendarmes, to be injured and 81 people to be arrested, as reported by the French media, quoting a report from the Interior Ministry. The protests, called Marching for Freedoms, gathered on Saturday more than 500,000 protesters throughout France, according to the movement organizers. But the French Interior Minister said there were only 133,000 protesters. A strong mobilization happening against a draft bill which was presented for debate following 2 scandals involving police violence caught on camera, which shocked France in May earlier this year. According to critics and human rights NGOs, this draft bill will reportedly cause serious setbacks to journalists' freedoms.
CR Belouizdad snatched a praiseworthy victory with 2 goals to nil over the Libyan side of Al-Nassr as part of the preliminary game of the African Champions League competition held behind closed doors at the 5th of July Olympic Stadium here in Algiers. The second leg is slated between the 4th and the 6th of December in Egypt.